Hey everybody, this is Leo and welcome to the pendulum swing with the tail, because it's part of our follow-through animation, learning one of the 12 principles of animation. Now you are learning slow in and slow out and timing and everything like that, but for this one you're doing a tail. So this assumes that you've already done the pendulum swing and you've already understand it and can do it again if you need to. And I'm gonna put a foxtail. You don't have to. You could put a little cattail. You could put just a little one line. But I'm gonna go ahead and start off with the tail, and the tail's gonna start off on the top like this, okay? Because it's actually coming down. The tail's coming down, but it just went from being up right now. So the thing is, I'm going to put a midline through that tail. Do you see how I'm doing that? And I'm putting a midline through there so that I can follow that tail all the way through. Now that midline that I'm putting through that tail is going to help me as the ball moves and the tail is going to follow. You're going to see how there's going to be a line that's going to go right through from the tip of it, and I'm going to follow it all the way through to the very last frame. So now, here's what I'm talking about. Where does the tail go? Well, first I'm going to show you. There's the top one, second, third, and now I'm on to the fourth one. So I'm going to make a line, and I'm going to follow that line right there. That's that midline right there that I was talking about. And I'm going to make the tail go around it. And as long as it follows that midline, it's going to make sense in its trail of animation, okay? So I'm also being very careful that the tail isn't moving all over the place in where it's inserted to that ball, but it's going to follow, and it's always going to be on the side of the ball right there. It won't end up on the other side. So that's another important thing when doing the tail, that wherever the tail is, on whatever side of the ball, you have to make sure. So there's that midline, and I'm going to take that midline all the way to the end, to the tip of the tail, and that's going to show me the flow of that ball. So you can look and you can see how that midline is trailing after it. It's going to make sure, look at, I'm going to draw that midline right through, and that's how I'm going to follow the ball, because it's going to follow that arc of that midline. So again, you can do a mouse's tail or foxtail, whatever is easier for you. And when doing follow through, what you have to remember is that there is the first principal movement, which is the ball, and the tail is going to be the secondary movement. So it's always going to lag after the ball. So when the ball moves forward, the tail is going to trail behind it. Makes sense, right? Now, there's going to be something when that ball comes to a stop, and when it slowly comes to a stop. But we'll get to that. Right now it's easy, and the tail is just trailing after it. And again, look how I do that midline. See the way it matches with the midline before? So I'm just going to continue, and I'm actually going to stretch out that tail just a little bit, because it's actually picking up a little bit of speed there, but it's going to stay nice and full, like a little foxtail. And then as it's going up, it starts to slow down. Now it's slowly going to start to slow down. And that tail, as it slows, that ball, as it slows down, the tail will slow down too, except it's going to stay a little bit faster than the ball. So the ball will slow down first, then the tail will slow down, so it's going to follow it. So the ball is coming, it's slowing down. As the ball is slowing down, the tail will want to continue to move forward. So as the momentum of the ball is slowing down, the tail is not slowing down. It's still moving forward at the same speed that the ball was going. So as that ball is going up, that tail is going to continue to go forward as the ball slows down. So the more abrupt that ball slows down, the faster the tail is going to jerk in front of it. But this one is going to double up on itself, and it's going to whip at the end when the ball goes the opposite side, right? So right now that little point is right there, and it's still pointing down, and then as it really goes forward, right here now, it's really going to whip, see? It's made that full circle and whipped up like that. And if you follow that midline on there, that should really, really help you. See that midline? I'm still doing that midline there like that. So this is follow through. and this is drag. There's a lot of different words for different parts of the follow through, but basically you're following. This is you're following the first part of movement, which is the ball. It can also be if that's someone's head and that's a ponytail. So it could be the same thing. If the person's going forward and that ponytail is moving with them, the head is going to move first, and then the ponytail will move at the same time. Take a look at our other tutorial with the punk rocker character, and you can see the difference between moving forward without this follow-through animation and then with the follow-through animation, how it really adds to it so much. So as we continue to move this ball, that tail will continue to follow it. And again, if you're looking at this without doing the pendulum, I highly recommend that you go to the pendulum tutorial so that you can see the pendulum, because we did a separate tutorial for that one. So if you're looking at this one first, please look at the pendulum first to get the idea of how that pendulum swing is going to move. So now again, the ball is slowing down as it gets to the top and before gravity takes a hold of it. And as it's slowing down, the tail is continuing to move forward. Makes sense, right? It's like getting in a car accident. If you're driving a fast car and all of a sudden the car comes to a stop, everything in the car is going to continue to move forward. That's why they have airbags. So as that ball continues to move forward, the tail will trail after it. But when it starts coming to a stop, then that tail will continue to move forward until the ball goes the opposite direction, and then it will trail after it, and it's going to make a whip. It's going to make like a bullwhip kind of feeling to it. So that is follow-through animation, and you see that on everything. And the more full, the better the animation looks, the more you'll see movement of things. A good example is like, watch a very limited animated program on TV and then compare it with some kind of animation from the 1940s Disney, or even any feature animation that is just really well done, and you'll see it's when the character stops, everything, his jacket continues to move, his hair, and so it's a really important part of animation. It's keeping it alive, and it is a lot of work, but it's fun. And notice, by the way, that I did this all on straight ahead animation. So I didn't draw the tail pose to pose. I instead did it on animation. Here I'm finding the arc, and here's an important part. You want to match up your last frame, which is the 24th frame, back to your first frame. So if you notice, I copy and pasted my first frame and put it right beside the 24th frame on the right hand corner, you can see, so I can make sure that it matches. Now I want to do the in-between, and I'm just trying to decide what in-betweens are good for that. So remember, green is the drawing before and red is the drawing after. So I'm going to go ahead, and I unfortunately made my pencil red that I'm drawing. Should have did it blue. But so I'm doing the in-between between the 24th frame and the first frame, so that'll match up perfectly, which is what you want to do. You want to grab over your first drawing and put it as your 25th drawing, even though you're not going to record your 25th drawing, just so you can make sure that your 24th drawing matches up with your first. Are you thoroughly confused now? Does that make sense? So yeah, it's very simple and easy, and you just want the loop to continue. You don't want it to look like it jumps or gets stuck. So that's why I do that. That's why I get my first frame and bring it up right to my 24th frame and try to make sure that it matches up, that the animation matches up. Otherwise, if you don't, you're going to get a little jump, a little schism in your animation there. So that's what I'm working on there. And once I have it, I'll go ahead and then do the animation, and you can see it flips. There we go. And it does a little too fast of a flip on the first frame, I think. So I would go back and fix that. But for right now, you can see the way it really moves. So I would go and change the frames around to make sure that it really gets a very nice, smooth animation movement. Okay, that's follow-through animation.